are back on Open Line. Chuck Long here with Kevin Kennedy from the Kennedy Law Firm, one of the top law firms in the state of Tennessee. They have been in business for years and years and years, and they are here today still because they know what they're doing. I mean, it really just kind of boils down to that.
Well, you're very kind, but Chuck. Thank you.
You guys do, and we've got a lot of folks, and we appreciate your patience on the lines. We're going to get to as many calls. If you do have a question or comment, there's that number that you call if you're just tuning in. Anything you want to know legally, this is the time to ask it. Comments, questions, 737-7587. Back to the lines right now. Lucy, we do appreciate your patience. We're glad that you called in. Do you have a question or comment for Kevin?
Hey, y'all. Yeah, Mr. Kevin.
Yes,
I've got a question for you. This may be a little nerdy, but your earlier caller, say, for instance, the Waffle House shooting and assets, I've got a question. You know, the father, and I'm not trying to try this case or something in the public. I'm real peculiar about that.
That's all right. Come on. We're tracking with you.
Okay. All right. Well, say he owns a company. Okay, if you sue somebody in a wrongful death like that and they own a company, I've heard some companies are LLCs.
Yes.
And some of them are way out there, what they call Delaware LLCs.
Yes.
Where they're kind of spooky and funny.
Yeah.
But once you have if the father's company is an LLC, can you touch any of those assets or just his personal assets? And
you are doing really good. And you know, I told Chuck at one time I owned 11 businesses. What did I learn from owning 11 businesses at one time? I learned you can't run 11 businesses at one time. So, and you know, and I've had corporations, still do, and have some LLCs and private. Here's the deal. If this daddy gets sued because he gave those guns and that was a negligent act, wow, hello, come in, here we go. So if he owns the companies and he owns the LLC, he really owns stock. So that stock would be where you could sue. Now, you couldn't sue his company because the company didn't do a criminal act. But if I owned all this stock in all these various companies, those would be personal assets. So touche to you. You are really good. And that's a very sophisticated answer knowing about Delaware. A lot of people incorporate in Delaware because there's laws beneficial in liability cases.
All right, Lucy, we really appreciate you calling in. We appreciate that question and comment.
Yes.
So thanks. Have a great evening. We're going back to the lines right now, though. Greg is on the line with us. Greg, we do appreciate your patience. We're glad you called in. And do you have that question or a comment ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
All
go
right,
ahead.
Go ahead.
I've done a bunch of work. I was in the excavating business for years, and I've done a bunch of work, cleaned the farm up, dug a pond, cleared a bunch of trees, had several carpenters that rebuilt a barn and built on this woman's house.
Okay.
I've been to court 3 times.
Oh, boy.
The first court, I had all my witnesses there. They claimed they never seen me on their property. All my witnesses shot that down. They appealed. I won that one.
Good.
They appealed that court. I went to the next court. They didn't even show up with their lawyer. I won that one. They appealed that. I went to the Court of Appeals, and I won that one. Wow. And I still haven't got my money.
Yes.
I've paid and paid and paid to an attorney.
Well, here's the truth in the state of Tennessee, and thank you for sharing with us, and congratulations on the win. We can win a lot of cases. The question is, can you collect? And as they appeal, are they spending their assets? Are they diverting assets? Are they putting it in trust? So we know that that is a real work. And guess what? You can go the whole way, win, 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 and after they've spent everything, they can file bankruptcy and you still get nothing. So all that has to go in, even when we look at a situation and look at who the defendant is. Do they have insurance or not? Do we spend lots of money to get to a dead end? So we have to evaluate that.
All right, Greg, we appreciate the call. Once again, line's very busy. If you do have that question or comment, you're just tuning in, ask an attorney. Kevin Kennedy from the Kennedy Law Firm, one of our most popular guests we ever have on Open Line, and we can see why. He's just got great advice, offers up great opinions. Tori is on the line with us right now. Tori, we do appreciate you calling in. Do you have a question or a comment for Kevin?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I was falsely incarcerated for an arson charge,
All
and
right.
I didn't commit, but the fire marshal who come to my house and get me out of my house and have me arrested, when we go to a preliminary hearing, he gets on court, he gets on the stand and tell a
a lie.
Come on.
He told a lie on stand and say that it was me who did it because a third party told him that never showed up at court.
Right.
So, long story short, that witness never told Marsh that it was me. So, do I have grounds for a lawsuit? Because I was falsely incarcerated for almost a year.
Okay, did the case ultimately get dismissed? I don't know. Well, we kind of missed him. Let me just go ahead and say
Tori,
this.
you still with us?
I think he's off.
Tori, you can call back if you did. I accidentally cut you off.
That's okay.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
So did the case ultimately get dismissed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, then that is grounds for a malicious prosecution, absolutely. And, you know, people come in and they say, well, I thought I saw him. And first off, if you had a really skilled lawyer that day, when he said, well, I charged him because a third party told me, that lawyer would stand up and say, objection, judge, that is hearsay. We're not going to let that evidence in. And here's the problem: if you're up there without a lawyer, you don't know to say whether it's hearsay. So that comes in and the judge is going to say, hey, well, you had a right to a lawyer, you had a right to know these rules, you didn't do it, and it's in. Wow. So again, it's the classic case, have someone to protect your rights. And if they did that, yes, you could bring a civil lawsuit.
Okay, so Tori, we do appreciate you calling in. I tell you, so many folks on the line with us right now. If you do have that question or comment, 737-7587, back to the lines right now. Andrea is on the line with us right now. Andrea, good evening, and do you have a question or a comment?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
2016, February the 12th, I was in a bus accident. I was a monitor on the bus.
Okay.
The bus driver was speeding. I stood up to tell her that she needed to slow down coming down Murfreesboro Road.
Yes.
Because it was only 40 miles per hour. She was doing like 55, maybe 60. At that time, a car was parked that stopped at a red light. She rear-ended it.
Oh, boy.
For me over the doghouse. So over 2 years, I've been going back and forth to the doctor. And this last doctor I went to, December the 5th, they turned me loose and said, everything is okay, I can return back to work. And I went back, I started back working. My back is in worse shape. What do I do? And it's been 2 years.
Well, first off, it sounds like that's a workers' comp case, and because if you're in a regular case, you have to file your lawsuit in 1 year. And so I'm not sure really what the status of your situation is, but if it is workers' comp, you got to ride those doctors and say, give me a disability rating. I'm not well. And then they're going to have to give you a disability rate. If they say there's 10% to your back, then there's a chart with the Workers' Comp Board that would pay you 10% to the body as a whole. Right now, as a general, I'm representing a whole group that was involved in a bus accident. They were riding the bus. Well, they're passengers. We're not really, we can't do anything about what the bus driver does. And so that one is still pending. But as a general rule, if it's not workers' comp, they've got some liability when they're riding you around.
Okay, great to know. We do appreciate the call, Andrea. Gene is on the line with us. Gene, we appreciate your patience. We're glad you called in. And do you have a question for us tonight?
Yes. I signed a lease with my son-in-law.
Yes.
And it ended in October, but he chose to stay on.
All right.
Am I still liable for the lease?
Okay.
Since it ended in October. And also during the process prior to the lease ending, the owner left. The owner sold it to a new person.
Okay, I'll address those. First, you got to look at that lease document. Does it say it's automatically renewed if you didn't give notice? If it did, it could say it's automatically renewed for another year, and that would be binding. That clause is not in every lease. So if it ran out, then it would be interpreted under Tennessee law. That is a month-to-month lease. So in 30 days, he could give notice, or 30 days, the new owner could give notice. And who owns the building is who's in charge. So if I sold it to Chuck and I rented it, well, guess what? When I'm out, Chuck's in charge, and Chuck can say anything he wants to do. So that's the law in Tennessee.
Okay, good to know, Gene. We appreciate the call. You know, Kevin, one of the things that I was noticing, or looking at before the show, top 10 reasons people hire a lawyer.
Yep.
And these are great reasons, and these are why we're getting so many great calls. Number one is the law is complicated.
Too complicated.
Seriously.
And so, you know, even right now, if I had a situation, I would hire a lawyer. And we've said it many times. You said, Kevin, you got 34 years experience. You got a whole team of lawyers. I would hire a lawyer. And even in our organization, how do we really operate? I'll come in and I love to brainstorm. And so it's open to interpretation. Where are the loopholes? You know, they said, Abraham Lincoln once said, there's two kinds of lawyers. There's one that knows the law and one that knows how to get around it. And so that is a top reason, always do it. That's what my experience tells me, that both my sons are doctors. What am I telling them? I've been brainwashing them for years.
There you go. All right, well, we are going to take a break right now. We don't have a lot of time left in this hour, but if you do have a question or a comment, this is Ask an Attorney. If you're just tuning in, we'll take a break. Back with Open Line right after this.
The Storm 5 HD